Rutger Bregman, thank you very much for being with us here at Swiss Economic Forum 2019.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
In the global market, we are told we must work harder and improve productivity. What do you think about this approach of work?
Well, I think we should remember that the actual goal of capitalism for decades actually was that we should work less and less and less, right? The promise of the robots and of the automation and all the technological progress was always that in the future we would have time to do the things that we actually care about, spend more time with our kids and doing more volunteers work and, spending time in the arts and music, etc. So what I advocate in my book is that we actually go back to that old dream, the old goal of capitalism.
So you already mentioned it. You wrote a book, Utopia for Realists, and you describe a world where we work less and get paid more. Mm-hmm. Tell us a bit more. How does this concept work?
It sounds pretty crazy, doesn't it? Well, I think it's important to remember that every milestone of civilization that we're used to right now, say the end of slavery or democracy or equal rights for men and women, these were all utopian fantasies once. Right? So in history, we've seen many times that crazy utopian ideas can actually become reality. So the question that I ask in my book is, what are some of the ideas that may seem utterly crazy right now, but might actually become reality in the future? And one of those ideas is indeed a radically shorter working week, where maybe we'll even have scrapped the word work from the dictionary and everything has become play and people can actually do what they want to do with their lives. And one of the other ideas is the idea of a guaranteed basic income for everyone. Free money for everyone, as some call it, which I see as venture capital for the people. If everyone gets a basic income, everyone can decide for themselves if they want to move to a different job, start a new company, move to a different city. And I believe that will create a lot of dynamism and energy in the economy.
Do you already see governments and institutions picking up the approach you describe in your book?
Well, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I was giving my talks just a couple of years ago to small groups of long-haired anarchists. That was my audience back then. And now I'm in places like this. So it's been quite a wild ride, actually. If you look at basic income, it was a completely forgotten idea just 5 or 6 years ago. And now there are governments and organizations and big companies around the globe thinking about it, doing experiments, learning. So yeah, this is how it often works. It starts in the fringes with people who are first dismissed as crazy, and then it moves towards the center.
Is this concept adaptable for every country, every organization, or what is the environment that has to be required? And or in other words, could this also work in Switzerland to be implemented all over Switzerland?
Well, for different countries, there are different reasons why they want to go forward with something like a basic income. So let's take a look at, for example, India. India is a huge country with hundreds of anti-poverty policies, and many of those policies are quite inefficient, quite bureaucratic, and don't really reach the people that really need the support. So here a basic income could make a real difference, and also new technologies actually make it possible. We have, for example, mobile phone money these days. So it's now easier to cut out the middlemen and make sure that the money actually reaches the people who really need it. So that's one reason. In that sense, basic income is a very promising idea for developing countries. It's interesting for a country like Switzerland or for Holland, where I'm from, or other richer countries, because the welfare state as we have it now is, on the one hand, a great accomplishment, but on the other hand, it has become extraordinarily bureaucratic and sometimes paternalistic, and it often traps people at the bottom, right? You have to prove over and over again that you're sick enough, that you're depressed enough, that you're really a hopeless case, and then maybe at the end of the day the government will give you a little bit of money, right? Basic income is the opposite. It's all about, I believe in you, I believe you've got dreams, I believe you've got ambitions, here's some venture capital. I'm very curious to see what you'll come up with. So that's a different reason, but I think it's also a very powerful reason to experiment with something like basic income.
And so what is your key message that you want to bring here to the Swiss Economic Forum?
My key message here is don't be a moderate, don't be a centrist. I mean, this is obviously one of the places where very powerful people come together. But we're now at a place in world history where it's become very clear that we need to do some quite radical things. If you just think about the environmental crisis, right? We've recently seen a report that 1 million species are in danger of extinction. We know that if we want to limit global warming to just 1.5 degrees of Celsius, then we need to do quite some radical things that have never been done before in a peacetime economy. So if you think that just a little bit of tinkering around the edges is going to do it, you're delusional. You're absolutely delusional. I think we need to become much more ambitious in our climate policies, in our social policies, and to be a realist these days is to be radical.